Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Oh, hello and welcome to the Before You Bet Christmas Day betting special, airing right here on the Covers YouTube channel. Welcome to the show here. So we are recording this show on Christmas Eve, and we're going to be going through our favorite bets for the NFL and NBA Christmas Day games. It's going to be myself, John Middlekauff, Hitman, and then Jon Metler will be with me in the fourth segment of the show to go over our best bets for the NBA, as well as some parlay action for the people out there. Okay, before we get into it, guys, if you like the show, if you've been watching all year, you can give us a little Christmas gift right now by hitting that like and that subscribe button right down there. Okay, that is enough small talk. Let's get right into the action. I'm going to give you my NFL picks, and we're going to go to our other NFL analysts, and we'll be back with our picks for the NBA. Okay, let's get started with Chiefs Steelers, the first NFL game of the day. There's a prop I like for this one. It is Pat Freiermuth, the tight end of the Steelers. I like him to go over his receiving yard total of 28.5 yards. So, might surprise you to hear, the Chiefs are allowing a league worst, or maybe I should say a league high 72.6 yards per game to opposing tight ends. This number for Freiermuth is on the decline here at 28.5. It had been in the mid-30s going back a couple of weeks ago, a couple of down games for him. So maybe we're buying this at a bit of a low point for him. And you just look at his body of work. He averages 33.8 receiving yards per game. The Steelers' offense is really desperate to get back on track. So you would think that they would be able to pinpoint this weakness in the Chiefs' defense. So look for Freiermuth to get some balls thrown his way here on Christmas Day. Next up, let's go down to Houston. A couple of props for this one. Probably my favorite prop betting type or market of the season. Longest completion. We're going to be taking the over for Lamar Jackson here. Number set at a very reasonable 35.5. This has been a money spot for Lamar Jackson. It's hit in 7 straight games for him, in 12 of 15 games overall, including both of the indoor games he's played in, for what that is worth, if anything. He loves to chuck up the deep ball. He leads the league in attempts of 40-plus air yards, and it might surprise you to hear the Texans, pretty decent defense, I guess. You don't want to be thrown at Stingley. However, they do allow a lot of big pass plays. They have allowed the third most pass plays of 40-plus yards. So look for Lamar to go over that number. Let's go to the other team and support Joe Mixon. Take him to go over his receiving yard total of 18.5 yards. So he's awesome in the backfield at catching these passes here. He averages 24.25 receiving yards per game. He has a very high ceiling here as well. 33 or more receiving yards on 5 occasions this season. 6 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. He's very involved in the pass game. And to bring it all together, this is a weak point of the Ravens defense. They have allowed the 3rd most receiving yards per game to tight ends, an average of 42.1. For what it's worth, he topped 30 in 2 games against Baltimore last season when he was with the Bengals. So he has had success in this area versus the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, so that's what I think. I also have a parlay that I'm going to be giving out in the 4th segment of the show, kind of a cross-sport type of thing. But right now, let's throw to my interview with John Middlekauff. I spoke to him yesterday, and then Hitman to see what they think of these games here on Christmas Day and the Boxing Day game as well. Let's check out what those guys have to say. All right, if we're talking big football games, we got to be talking them with our guy down there in Arizona, Jon Middlekauff. John, is your heart full with the joy of the holiday season? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think once you get football games on every day of the week, you realize it's that kind of sweet spot right around December 16th, 17th. You get random bowl games. The NFL starts coming in on Saturdays. Now they come in on Wednesdays, and it's football. Now we got the college football playoffs. I'm ready to take a breather on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or one of these days.
Yeah, catch up on some TV, watch a movie, perhaps, something along those lines. But we got some big games going down on Christmas Day and a game on Boxing Day as well that we're going to touch on. So let's rip through these, then we'll let you get on your way. So starting things off, we have the Kansas City Chiefs kind of look like the old selves again on Saturday against the Texans. They're favored by 2.5 points at the Steelers, total of 43. The Steelers have looked awful in their last two games against the Ravens and the Eagles. What do you think here? Can the Chiefs cover another spread this week?
I don't know about you, but I thought that game was the moment where you went, yeah, I might just not bet on the game, but there's no way I'm betting on the underdog at Arrowhead. Not going to do it. Not saying I would bet my life savings on the Chiefs winning the AFC this year because it's been a weird season, but you talk about a team that knows how to win, and it felt like they got their mojo back. And listen, unless his leg falls off, I'm just going to assume he's going to be completely fine the next game. The defense, Chris Jones, that's just a team, I'm sorry, that is going to find a way to peak at the right time. And it felt like, oh, they flipped a switch. And like you said, the Steelers, they cannot cover anybody. So I understand they've played two of the best offenses in the league the last 2 weeks, but guys are wide open. And part of their formula, why by midseason you had to take them seriously, it's like, well, their defense is awesome, right? We know how good their front is, and it's still good, and they corralled Lamar. But obviously Henry ran wild on him. But whatever. It was the passing game and the touchdown passes that, and maybe it's just the injuries. It's caught up to them. I don't know, but guys were wide open. You got KZ going the wrong way. You cannot win in January in the AFC against Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. If we go, yeah, we're having trouble covering people. It's like, I'm out. And I do think you saw, Russell had two plays that were devastating. The one run where he was I think he thought, like, this is 2014. I'm going to walk into the end zone. Like, bro, this is the Ravens Steelers. And at any moment, a guy can come out of anywhere and destroy you. And that led to 7 points. So that's a 14-point swing. 10 to 14-point swing. And obviously like Lamar's interception was bad, but listen, it looked like there might have been a miscommunication. Like we've seen that pass sometimes. The Russell thing, you just can't throw that. Behind him, getting chased down, it was devastating. And it was the game right there. And so when your quarterback is going to come back to the middle of the pack and your defensive secondary is going to be this atrocious, I think the Steelers are in trouble. I went from thinking, God, they could be a real contender to they feel like a one and done team now, don't they?
Yeah, two teams going in different directions. We've seen the Chiefs have these periods in the regular seasons before where they do sleepwalk. The one this year was a bit longer, it seemed, but they might be peaking here at the right time. Don't forget they lost on Christmas Day last year to the Raiders. Then they really hit their stride and ended up running the table, right? So
I don't even think they were sleepwalking because they were playing good defense. I think Pacheco had broke his leg, so they're running. They were dependent on Kareem Hunt, who was on the couch. Their most explosive player on offense is a rookie, which what happened by December? He's like, are they getting a little rapport? They're still a little off on the deep ball, but I just think, and we know Kelsey would have shocked you if in the first playoff game he has 7 catches for 60 yards, a touchdown.
It would not. Okay, next up, we're headed down to Houston, and this is the second straight Christmas Day where the Baltimore Ravens are on the road. The schedule must have came out and said, what the hell did we do that you guys are sending us on the road on Christmas Day, 2 straight seasons in a row here? So either way, Ravens look great on the weekend. They're favored by 4, total of 46.5. Now, I think the Texans have looked pretty fraudulent whenever they've gone up against a quality opponent. C.J. Stroud really regressing here this season. All of a sudden, the Ravens defense is looking really good. If the Steelers lose the game before, Ravens have a good shot here to jump in the first place in the AFC North. What do you make of this matchup?
I had the Texans on Saturday against the Chiefs, and I felt pretty good about it throughout the game until that Tank Dell injury. When he was playing at a really high level, you went, okay, this team's showing some life, on the road against the defending champs 2 times, right? And and then that injury happened and it felt like they were shell shocked. And I don't know if you rebound from that. And the Ravens, good organizations don't freak out when a coach is struggling. And Zach Orr, now he's one of their guys, right? Played for him, coached under him before he became the defensive coordinator. but like they've made the move with Kyle Hamilton, who plays way farther back now instead of like early in the season when he was playing like Cam Chancellor near the box. And their defense is better. And offensively, when they play right, they look elite. I thought that game against the Steelers for Lamar, it's not the best statistical game he's ever had, but I thought that's one of the best games he's ever had, given the importance of it, how calm, cool, and collected he was. They took away his running ability, and which was fine with them because he just handed it off to Derrick Henry. But that's a huge thing with the Steelers. Like, you're not going to run wild on us. And he was brilliant passing the ball, especially in some big spots. And even though there were some times when guys were open, it feels like in the past he might have missed that ball against the Steelers, and it was just like, this is the Lamar that we see against 90% of the other teams. And if you get that version, not just against the Texans, which I like them, but I listen, this is why I picked last year, I put a lot of money on the Ravens against the Chiefs because I thought I was getting that Lamar, and then he kind of turned into a different guy. If they get that guy, they can beat anybody, including obviously win the Super Bowl. And I think one thing that's pretty clear is this is a 3-horse race in the AFC. It's Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar in whatever order you want to put them in. And it all looks like, if the Chiefs handle business like I would imagine, the Ravens and the Bills, which could be a fantastic game, wild divisional game, would then have to go to Arrowhead. But the problem for the Ravens is, they would probably have to go on the road twice like the Chiefs did last year. And that's hard.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, not a great game. I believe it's the last Thursday night football game of the season. The
Thank
Chicago
God.
Bears hosting the Seahawks. Yeah, some of these Thursday nighters have been rough lately. Seahawks favored by 3.5, total 43.5. Now, the Bears look completely checked out. 9 straight losses, 3 straight losses by 18 points or more. They fall into these massive holes here in the first half. Seahawks are still alive. They have a showdown in Week 18 against the Rams, so they're obviously in must-win territory. Do you think they will win and cover that number here against Chicago?
Yeah, that loss to Minnesota was pretty devastating. I mean, Geno led him down the field, threw that great touchdown in the back of the end zone, let it rip like he was Brett Favre. I mean, how about the velocity on that pass? But the Bears felt like they went 1-2-3 Cancun about a month ago. They are down in every first half, 15-0, 20-0, 24-0. And it's like everyone's like, oh, Caleb, look at his numbers. It's like he's playing in just meaningless snaps. So this team, some parallels of the Robert Saleh Jets. Clearly, like, the guy wasn't going to come back, but a midseason firing and the team gets dramatically worse. I mean, defensively, the Lions to run the fumble. It's not a fumble rooski, but whatever the hell they want to call it, is an all-time middle finger of just kicking you when you're down, because this season couldn't get that much worse. And then you see it, and then you see the visual in the Packers game when clearly Ben Johnson is watching their defense. Jordan Love just fumbles the ball, and he's like, yeah, we'll steal that play, and they get an easy touchdown. I can't imagine anyone in Chicagoland thought that they would, even if the season didn't go as well, and I bet a lot of people were pessimistic because they've been let down before, could have ever imagined this. And I think if you're a Seattle fan, you go like, pretty good year one from Mike McDonald, right? And obviously the previous game against the Packers, you removed Geno, and I've questioned it before. I actually learned a lot about his value when they threw Sam Howell in there. You're like, God, this offensive line is not that good. And obviously Sam Howell might not be good, but it kind of made me not even just respect, but value him a little more. You watch him yesterday. He will throw a bad pick, not even talking about the end of the game, but just throughout the game. But he makes a lot of big plays. I mean, he's grown on me, I would say, over the last 12 months.
Okay, John, we will leave it at that. Enjoy the action on Saturday and on Boxing Day, the college football action as well. Best of luck with all the bets, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
You too. Have a great week.
Okay, let's get going with our guy, Hitman, professional sports bettors. Got a couple takes on these games taking place on Christmas Day and the Boxing Day game. Apparently, they don't call it Boxing Day down in the U.S. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. That's a debate for another day. But what's up, buddy? How you making out?
Yeah, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm just so locked into this NFL right now that I'm just not self-aware enough about any Boxing Day or any of these other holidays. Let's just get through Christmas
Yeah.
and then grind out some profit.
All right, buddy, let's get into the action here. Let's start with the first game of the day. The Chiefs are in Pittsburgh. I'm kind of having a tricky time with this one. The Chiefs look like they've kind of really turned a corner. It's hard to say about a team that only has one loss on the season, but they've been impressive their last couple times out. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh's been the complete opposite. There's a prop in this game that stands out to you, Xavier Worthy. You expect him to have a decent day out there.
Yeah, so I am buying at this is the highest his number's been all year on 4.5 receptions. So typically I tend not to play guys at the peak of their market, but this one's a little different. There's a lot of talk about him being the next Rashee Rice, like Matt Nagy and Andy Reid have both come out this past week, and they're talking about how the evolution of his game is similar to Rashee Rice last year, who really came on at the end of the year. Kansas City is going to have to get the ball out quick against the Steelers pass rush, especially because their tackles are both injured in this game. And Patrick Mahomes' ankle is, listen, I know that he played good against Houston. I still don't think he's 100%. Now, he's superhuman and can look like a good quarterback still, despite the injury. But there was a lot of quick passes in that game, and I expect there to be more quick passes in this game. And Xavier Worthy has went over this number in 4 straight games, and we have all the coach speak about his usage trending up. They adjusted this line based off the previous weeks, but still think there's a little bit of value on it.
Okay, let's get into this game down in Houston. Ravens flying high after beating up on the Steelers last week. Meanwhile, the Texans, I think they're pretty fraudulent. Spread at 5.5 points here at the time of this recording. They total at 46.5, and you're expecting a lower scoring game.
Yeah, so admittedly, I bet this at a slightly better number, but I still think that the total should have came in around 45-ish, which is around what the Baltimore Ravens Steelers game just closed. The Texans offense is really bad right now. Like, their offensive line is in shambles, and that was even when they were healthy. And now you're going to be without both your starting guards and Juice Scruggs and Mason. They are the league's least efficient offense on early downs. They're going against arguably or one of the top run defenses in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens. So theoretically, we're probably going to see him in a lot of those 3rd and long situations again, with how stubborn Bobby Slowick has been running the ball on early downs this year. They are now without Tank Dell after losing Stephon Diggs earlier in the year. This is a team that relies on these players to make plays, again, because of all the 3rd and longs that they just tend to be. And they're really running short on weapons right now. And the Ravens defense, their year-to-date metrics aren't good. And since week 10, they've had a pretty easy schedule of opposing offenses, but they're first in the NFL since week 10 in EPA allowed per dropback. There was a lot of talk from some players about how moving Kyle Hamilton to safety was one of the big changes that they made that has transformed this defense. I think that this total just should have been closer to the Ravens last game against the Steelers. So we'll still go under 46.5.
Okay, before we let you go, I got to get your thoughts on this game taking place on Boxing Day. Some people call it that, apparently. It's the last Thursday nighter of the season here. It looks like a bit of a dud. Seahawks in Chicago. Seattle favored by 3.5. Total on the low end of 43.5. Anything on your radar for this one?
Very interested in the Seahawks running back props. Kenneth Walker, I would guess, is probably going to miss this game. Zach Charbonnet has been the workhorse when he's been out, but you had that whole ordeal last week where in the pregame, there's reporters saying that Charbonnet was going to be a starter and play a lot of snaps. He barely played in the game. Kenny McIntosh ended up getting more carries. After the game, head coach Mike McDonald said that Charbonnet was a little banged up, and that was the plan to limit him. I'm very interested to see what ends up happening this week. I know that there's going to be a good bet probably with either McIntosh overs, unders, Charbonnet overs, unders. I just have no idea what that bet is. And part of the reason I don't know is because there's no lines out right now on these guys. But I am very interested to see what the lines come in at on these Seattle running backs in this game.
Okay, something to keep tabs on for the Thursday nighter. Okay, Hitman, we are going to leave it at that. Before we let you go, though, we want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Enjoy the action. Good luck with your bets, and we'll catch you again next week.
Same to you, Joe, and same to everybody watching. Thank you.
Okay, one of the greatest traditions in all of sports. It is the NBA Christmas Day games, despite the NFL trying to steal some of their shine. We got 5 great games here, some pretty good betting opportunities. And of course, if we're talking NBA betting, we are talking it with the ass man, the Magic ass man, whose Orlando Magic won outright versus the Boston Celtics as a 10-point underdog at home. We talked about that on the show on Monday. John, how are we making out, buddy?
I was thinking of you while I was watching it because you brought up, you're like, oh, I thought about taking them in the 10 plus 10 points. And then you're like, oh, I ultimately decided not to, and they win outright. I mean, Jamal Mosley, I don't know if he will win, but like he is very clearly in my mind the coach of the year. He's like sitting, I think about like plus 600 last I checked it. He was about plus 1,000 a week ago, but I just don't know if he will actually win it. But my God, like they're missing so many guys. And like the Celtics, I know Tatum wasn't playing, but the Magic at home are money. Like at the Kia Center, I think they could put anyone in the lineup and they'd win.
Well, that's it with your Orlando Magic. Ask any casual fan to name 3 active players playing for the Magic right now. I'm not sure they could do it. Okay, that's enough Orlando Magic talk, though, John. We got some big-time action to get into. So we're going to bookend this with a couple of parlays here. I have one to open. John has an SGP. His has a little bit better of a payout than the one I have. But I'm going to go with a traditional asshole parlay here. So taking 3 favorites on the money line for a little bit of plus money. We're going to pair the Ravens, the Knicks, and the Celtics. They just got to win. This is for all, I'll say this is for the dads out there. You know, it's Christmas Day. You're chasing your kids around. Not everyone has the luxury just to be playing it in front of the TV, checking the updates on your phone. So something kind of easy to follow along with. So the Ravens, Knicks, and Celtics, it is an asshole parlay because if one of the teams loses, you feel like an asshole. But all 3 just have to win outright. The spread does not matter. So here's my case for the Ravens winning outright. The Texans often look fraudulent against good teams. You know, CJ Stroud has had his worst games this season versus the Chiefs, versus the Lions, versus the Vikings. He threw 2 interceptions against each of those teams. Check out Baltimore's defense here, guys. Starting to catch up to the offense. 2nd in yards allowed per play over their last 3 games. That's the case for Baltimore. Here's the case for the New York Knicks. Big statistical edge here over the Spurs, who I'm not sure should be playing on Christmas Day. I know they're trying to put Wemby in the spotlight here. But either way, 3rd versus 21st in net rating over the last 10 games. Spurs don't really do a good job of playing up to the competition, at least from a straight-up winning perspective. They're 1-7 on the season as a road underdog. And their play really falls off on the road. They're near the bottom of the league in scoring on the road this season. So I do expect the Knicks, one of the best offenses in basketball, to take care of business on Christmas Day at MSG. And speaking of those Orlando Magic, I said we were done talking about them, but we are not. It's a part of my case here to back the Celtics on the money line, not the spread here. So look at the game situation for Boston. They're at home, coming off of a very bad loss to John's Orlando Magic, and they're taking on a divisional opponent. That's usually not something you factor in too often when you're handicapping basketball. You hear that a lot more often with the NFL. But the Celtics are 17-1 straight up in their last 18 divisional games, so they tend to beat the shit out of divisional opponents here. You know, I do think these Christmas Days games have an elevated feel for some of these teams, so I think Boston can get up for this one. And do you trust the 76ers? Who knows who's going to show up to play for them? 2-12 straight up as an underdog. So that is the asshole parlay for Christmas Day. John, let's get into some regular props for you. Jalen Brunson, what do you like for him?
Yeah, I went Jalen Brunson over 22.5 points, minus 120. So Brunson's his points props are a little more interesting this year because, you know, last year he was obviously just purely like the focal point usage of this Knicks offense. But when you add in Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, he's kind of having these like yo-yo games where I think he just had 39 against the Pelicans, then 13 against the Raptors. So his props kind of moving all over the place. I was kind of shocked to see this open at 22.5, which is obviously why I played the over, because when you think about the matchups, Victor Wembanyama is like minus money favorite to win defensive player of the year. He had like how many blocks last night? He's going to be following Karl-Anthony Towns. So like wherever Karl-Anthony Towns is on the court, that's where Wembanyama is going to be. So you just think that would push more usage towards Brunson, because Brunson can at least get away from Wembanyama, right? Karl-Anthony Towns won't be able to get away from Wembanyama. So if he's guarding Towns, they'll probably go the other way type thing to Brunson. And you just look at it, it kind of plays. I mean, Towns wasn't on the team last year, but last year against the Spurs, Brunson had 61 points against the Spurs in a game. So, I mean, that's not why I'm betting, but you can kind of see that angle as to like, we're going to completely stay away from Wembanyama. So I just thought that was, you're talking about, I didn't necessarily like the under on Towns. I think it was like sitting about 23.5, but 22. This is going to move. I think it's already started to move. So I think it's up to 23.5. I would still play the over at 23.5 though. Give me the over on Jalen Brunson.
Okay. From Brunson to Paul George. What do you like for him on Christmas Day?
Yeah, I bet this. Yeah. Not yet. On 23rd here against I took Paul George under 5.5 assists, minus 145. You can play this. This is going to move too. You can play this 4.5 plus like 115 as good EV as well. As long as it's plus money, I would still play it. It's pretty much the same reason I took him the under against the Spurs. It was 5.5 minus 145. The exact same number is the same reason I'm going to do it against the Celtics. I don't think this is who Paul George is as a creator, like 5.5 assists. That's a big number. And it's inflated because he's had multiple games here of 8 assists, and all 3 of them came against the Charlotte Hornets. So I think it's just one matchup where he kind of all those assists, and they were without Embiid too, right? So like Embiid is expected to play against the Celtics. So when Embiid's playing, that's more 2-man game. Tyrese Maxey giving assists to Embiid passing out of double teams, and then Paul George should be the one kind of finishing those off with jump shots. So a lot of these high assist game where his total got inflated was with Embiid out. And I think some matchups where he took advantage of it. I just really don't think his total should be 5.5. So give me the under. And if it's 4.5 plus money, I'd play that as well.
Okay, next up, let's go down to Dallas, where the Minnesota Timberwolves are in town. I don't think they deserve to be playing on Christmas Day here, but based on their recent play, and that kind of factors into a bit of the handicap here. I'm going to go under 221.5 for this one. So the T-Wolves are an absolute under wagon right now. It has hit in 9 of their last 11 games. Average combined score of right around 205 points in those games. Their defense is top notch. They're allowing just 101.2 points per game in the span. However, their offense is broken right now. 27th in scoring in this 11-game span, 28th in offensive rating. And you look at how the teams play away versus home. This is something that I've pinpointed before this season. It's the Dallas Mavericks defense at home. They're 5th in defensive rating. They're allowing 11 fewer points at home compared to on the road. Meanwhile, T-Wolves rock solid on defense when they hit the road, 6th in defensive rating on the season. So I like under 221.5 in that one. From that game to Suns Nuggets, our only pick for that game, I believe, Nurkic. What do you like for him?
Yeah, the rematch. So on Monday, Bobby Newport put in the chat, he said, should we do a Yusuf Nurkic ladder? And I said, I think I'd prefer Bradley Beal. I want to see Nurkic on film. We should have went with the Nurkic ladder because he had 4 assists in 14 minutes. So I'm going to Yusuf Nurkic over 1.5 assists, minus 115. I did see on film what I thought would be the case. I just wasn't sure. Yusuf Nurkic is in a weird spot because his props are really low because his minutes are low. And I don't think the Suns even necessarily like playing him, but the props are so low, it's hard not to play the over. And when you're watching this game, they were having a hard time creating offense, and their best offense was getting the ball to Nurkic and then letting Durant, Beal, those guys kind of run dribble handoff actions where they can they're both mid-range guys, right? So where they can work off of Nurkic and then kind of attack Jokic. But Yusuf Nurkic, he had 2 quick fouls, got pulled, and then he came in and got a third, and then the game was a blowout. So he only played 14 minutes, but we don't need big minutes from Nurkic. The projection is like 21 minutes. So the 14 might scare you, but that was a big part of the foul trouble and, the blow and stuff like that. So we're really only looking for like 21 minutes, and you have a huge edge on this number. I do like Bradley Beal again. I didn't make him an official play. Maybe that's what I make tomorrow. Devin Booker, they just said he's being reevaluated. So is Booker playing? Is Booker not playing? I'm not quite sure. I think Nurkic's prop is very safe, whether Booker's in or out. I'm just a little bit concerned about grabbing it over on Beal and then Booker comes back. So I want Nurkic over 1.5 assists.
Big Nurk. Okay, last but not least for me on a loaded Christmas Day betting slate. Some might consider this the marquee game. It is in terms of star power, at least. I'm talking about the Lakers taking on the Golden State Warriors, and I'm going to take the Lakers as a 4-point underdog in this one. And neither of these teams is playing great right now, but Golden State is playing horrible right now. They're on a 5-game stretch now where they're ranked 28th in net rating in the NBA. Now, you could say the Lakers turning a little bit of a corner, especially on the defensive end. You check out the last 5 games for each of these teams. 3rd for the Lakers versus 27th in defensive rating for the Warriors. So they're kind of taking some time off on that side of the court, I guess you could say. And you dig into some stats. One that really stands out to me is a big edge at the free throw line where the Lakers could score a lot more points here. 2nd versus 28th in free throw attempt rate over the last 5 games. So look for the Lakers to be on the line a lot, picking up a lot of freebies, at the very least making this one a close game as they try to, fully get back on track here. They're coming off a loss to the Pistons, but statistically, I like the Lakers as an underdog. Okay, saved it for the end. I guess you could say maybe the best for the last. Taking a bit of a swing here. SGP, break this one down.
Yeah, we're going SGP plus, and you can find this at BetMGM. So I use the Wolves Mavs game and the Lakers Warrior. It's plus 1545. I went Luka Doncic, 35 plus points. Luka Doncic, 5 plus threes made. I just feel like that matchup is a little bit personal just from their playoff series last year, Wolves Mavs. I don't think any player meet the moment more than Luka Doncic, where it's like Christmas Day, big game, and he just turns into an absolute assassin on the basketball court. The one thing that really plays, I think, in this matchup is what they really struggled with was Rudy Gobert plays a deep drop, and Rudy Gobert doesn't get up to help on a Doncic 3, and Doncic doesn't like catch and shoot threes. He likes pull-up threes. So when you're running these pick and rolls and Gobert's just dropping back, remember last year he was pulling logo threes and just splashing them on the Wolves. So that's why I went the 5 plus threes and 5 plus points. And the second one of the biggest trends, Joe can speak to this, Stephen Curry is not good on Christmas Day, but I'm going with Stephen Curry, 30 plus points, 6 plus threes made, because I think the recent first of all, he's playing the Lakers, which perimeter defense, not their strongest, and guarding having someone who can follow him, he should be able to exploit that. What I really like is the addition of Dennis Schroeder as the primary ball handler. And then you also have Draymond Green as a passer as well. I think this could help him just, run off screens. He doesn't have to handle the ball, and that could hurt the Lakers. I think the Lakers might have a hard time with that. So I went 30 plus. I mean, if he's going to get to 30, he's probably going to hit 6-3. So I would just put 2 superstars together. I felt like there's basketball reasons for both. I think this could be one of those matchups where Dennis Schroeder, that acquisition, him playing alongside Curry, could help him.
Okay, so we started with a plus 115 asshole parlay to a 14-1 SGP. So pick your poison. Maybe play them both if you want, or don't play them at all. The choice, quite simply, is yours. John, before we go, I got to tell you, I went on one of my favorite traditions of the holidays is I do a holiday liquor run every year. I use it as an excuse to kind of, I guess you could say, overindulge. I got a 6-pack of Corona, a bunch of fancy tall boys, some spiced rum, some vodka, some Baileys, a little bit of everything. What's do you have like a favorite holiday drink or a favorite holiday tradition that you're looking forward to indulging in here over the next 24 hours or so?
I would go with the Baileys, like you said, Baileys hot chocolate, Baileys coffee. I really like coffee. I'm honestly not much of a drinker, but coffee, give me a flight of coffee, I would love that. So throwing in Baileys there'll definitely be Baileys. We are selling our Christmas this afternoon, so there's definitely be Baileys there and stuff like that. Lots of snacks, lots of food. Yeah. It'll be good.
It's a good excuse for me to be drinking alcohol at 8:30 in the morning. A little bit of Baileys in the coffee. You gotta love that. Okay, guys. So that does it for the Christmas Day Before You Bet special. We're going to be right back with you guys on Friday, though, digging into the usual slate of NFL games. Brad Powers is going to be with us to get into the college football bowl games. There's an avalanche of them over the weekend. John will be back to get into the NBA action as well. So we will leave it at that, but we do want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a happy holidays. Best of luck with all of your bets, and we will see you guys again on Friday.